We all know that Michelangelo was an artistic genius. We all know that. But what a lot of people don't know about Michelangelo is he also mastered another art form that is very rarely mentioned. That's the art form of dealing with your boss. Yes, even in the art world, even someone like Michelangelo still had bosses that he had to deal with and play politics with. Whether it's wealthy patrons who are funding his work, whether it's the Pope asking him to paint the Sistine Chapel, even Michelangelo had bosses. And it's because of his ability to deal with these bosses as much as his skill as an artist that made him as successful as he is. Frankly, there was a lot of other artists around at the same time that had work as good, maybe even some a little bit better than Michelangelo, but they didn't understand how to play the political game that Michelangelo did. And the way in which he did it is something that we can all make use of in our daily lives. And a perfect example of this is what happened when Michelangelo was making his now famous statue of David. The story goes like this. He's in his studio, he's working away on the statue, when one of his wealthy patrons who's funding his work comes along, as they often did, to check on the progress of everything. The patron looks up at David and says, "Oh, amazing, brilliant, so good, Michelangelo, you've outdone yourself this time, but I think the nose is a little bit too big." Now Michelangelo realizes that this wealthy patron is actually just standing too close to the statue. So from his vantage point looking up, the nose looks a lot bigger than it actually is. If this guy were to take a few steps back, he'd realize that. But see, Michelangelo doesn't want to say that to this guy because this guy is his boss and he doesn't want to risk offending him or getting into an argument with him or insulting him or embarrassing him in any way. But on the other hand, he also doesn't want to keep working on the nose because he knows it'll ruin it. So quite the dilemma he's in. What would he do? Most artists at the time would just argue with their boss, but Michelangelo is cleverer than that. He looks up and he says, "Yeah, I think you might actually be right. I'll go fix it." So he grabs his hammer, he grabs his chisel, and he walks up the scaffolding to get towards the face. On the way up, he discreetly grabs a handful of dust, stone dust from where he had worked previously. He gets up to the nose and he puts the chisel not on the nose, but just above it. And he starts tapping his chisel with his hammer, but he doesn't actually let the chisel actually touch the nose. He's just pretending, hammering away at his chisel, making it seem like he's working on the nose. As he's doing this, he strategically lets some of the dust in his hand fall. So from the perspective of the patron down below, he's chiseling and fixing the nose. He does this for about 20 minutes, then he dusts off the nose and he calls down to his boss and says, "How does it look now?" The patron looks up and says, "Oh, you've made it come alive." This is why Michelangelo was a genius, not just because of his art, because he knew to do things like this. And this tactic of Michelangelo is something all of us can apply in our lives. Maybe you work in an area where there's a lot of groupthink that goes on around a certain idea. You can adapt Michelangelo's strategy a bit so that you can please your bosses, you can fulfill the politics of the office, but you still maintain the quality of the work that you want to put forward. The nature of any kind of creative work or groupthink is that your stuff is always going to be changed. One particular strategy that was a variation of Michelangelo's that I heard in an interview which I've always remembered was a particular screenwriter. I can't remember who this was, I've tried to find the interview but I can't. But this screenwriter was talking about writing a movie script. And he said, when I write a movie script and I finish it, it's perfect. It's exactly as it should be. And he's got it ready to hand over to the studio. But he doesn't. Because he knows that everybody involved in the movie making process is going to want to pitch in their 2 cents to make it better. Even if making it better is actually ruining what's perfect. Everybody wants to feel like they're contributing in some way. So what this writer would then do is he would go back to the script and he would put in something that definitely shouldn't be in there, and he would take out something that definitely does need to be in there. And he'd do these two things as bait, so that when he hands his script over to the producers in the studio, they'd say, "Really good, but we just need a bit something here, or we need just have this scene taken out." And he'll say, good idea. He'll go back, get the original script, bring it back to them, and they'll be like, "Oh, perfect." And he'll say, "Well, couldn't have done it without your advice. Amazing advice you have." That's sort of a Michelangelo style. If you're presenting an idea to your boss or presenting an idea that groupthink needs to work on, you can take stuff out or put stuff in so that in there fixing it preserves what you originally wanted. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. This is the Bandit Strategy channel where we try to mine gems like this from the pages of history that we can all apply in our day-to-day lives. If you've got any ideas for future videos, put them down in the comment section below, and feel free to tell your friends about this channel. I am Bandit, this is Bandit Strategy, and until next time, I will see you guys in the comments.